All right, and we are live. Hello, I'm BMillzebub, and welcome to my channel. And for tonight's interview, I have Red Venture. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Red Venture. Most people have seen me around the community. I've hopped around quite a bit, a few other channels, streams with people. Uh, Atheist stuff. Do some streaming game stuff on Twitch and stuff right now, but yeah, not a whole lot.
All right. What do you do on Twitch? Just gaming, obviously, but what's the conversation like when you're on there? Because
Well, it depends on who we get in there. So Duke doesn't play. Duke Bonanza doesn't play much. So there's some, if we can get him into the Discord talking with Evans, Faithless Southerner, and myself, it's usually pretty good there. Otherwise, it's a lot of swearing at the screen. When you get killed in Apex Legends. But yeah.
see, I understand getting killed in a game, but I've never played Apex Legends, and I kind of doubt I ever will. Doesn't seem like my flavor of game, you know.
Yeah, it's not usually mine, but Evans really likes it, and to play it and play it well, you need at least one person going in. Otherwise, the random ones you get put in with, it's a pain in the butt playing by yourself. So I've gotten into it just through playing with him.
All right. So what's your former religion? What'd you grow up with?
I was a Catholic.
Okay. I'm familiar. Um, yeah. So what's the craziest thing you remember about it?
Well, not a whole lot. We were kind of the bad Catholics in that sense. Just the religious part wasn't first and foremost in life growing up, so there wasn't a whole lot of um, crazy from that.
All right. So you just sort of went like every Christmas or Easter when it was, obligated.
When we were younger, we used to go regularly, weekends and stuff. But as we got older, it turned in just the holiday stuff, Easter and Christmas and um, Thanksgiving and stuff. We would go, but then eventually we quit going all together as a family.
Hmm. Did they just like stop believing, or did they just not really prioritize going to church?
Well, we got into my brothers and I got into sports. So usually, especially hockey in the wintertime, if you got kids on different levels, there's a tournament pretty much every weekend, sometimes two in two different places. So we're running all over the area for tournaments and stuff like that. That it's just we quit going. That was one of the reasons, or for the longest time, I thought that was the reason why we eventually quit going all together. Just got way too busy with all that other stuff. But there was I don't know what they call it, but apparently they go to the wives and ask them to take a year and volunteer strictly to the church. I don't know if that's anything outside my particular church or if that's something bigger. But my mom laughed at it and said she wasn't doing it, and she felt shunned afterwards. So that was another reason why she was happy enough just to say, "Yep, screw it, we're not going anymore."
Oh, that's interesting. So, would you say that your family still believes in God, or?
Uh, my mom does. My brothers don't. My brothers and I don't. Um, And then my sister's never been to a church, never been to anything religious. So she's probably going to end up being an atheist and just not caring about it, or at least not caring about it in general.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. But you definitely fall in the category of atheists, though.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yep. Yeah, me and my one brother does. The two of them are apatheists and don't care either way. You know, the one watches a lot of, or I wouldn't say a lot of, but he's got a handful of atheist YouTubers that he does watch regularly. So I think he's kind of that way, but at the same time, it doesn't come up in his life. It's nothing important to him. The whole religious discussion. So he kind of just leaves it there. But I know he watched Amazing Atheists quite a bit, either through there or Drunken Peasants, both of which I introduced him. What else did you watch? I think you watched a little AIU and that stuff. So, and those guys now are generally away from the atheist content and more into the political stuff. So, all depends on what's going on with them. But yeah, and the other one just doesn't care. He's gonna go, not ever gonna come up in his life. So,
All right. So is it just your family sort of dropping out that got you to stop believing, or was there more to it than that?
there's more to it for me. It was started happening in college, taking philosophy courses with it. And it was the introduction of the Hindu religious texts. So we read a bit of different religions. And the thing that kicked it off was I look at the Hindu text, their version of Genesis. I know they got like 5 or 6 different ones, but I believe this one was the lotus creation story. And I look at that and I'm like, this sounds crazy. Well, at the same time, we're flipping over the Bible and reading through that stuff more thoroughly in a philosophy class than what you usually do as a Christian. And I'm like, well, I believe this Hindu stuff is crazy and wrong. Why don't I believe the crazy shit in here is wrong as well? Why do I hold that as true? And why do I hold like even in a more metaphorical sense, even then, why do I look at that stuff the same? So there was a lot of trying to prove my Christianity to me. So it was, my big thing at the time was history. So I looked at from the historical stuff, and you find out the Gospels, as they're named, are written anonymously and not by these characters, these people. So, different sects, and you have the different gospels and different scriptures and stuff that are completely left out of the Bible. So you do all this history stuff, and you're like, well, I can't hold anything down or say anything is the correct thing, like from God. From this is a bunch of different people, a bunch of different writings, different sects that are coming together to make up the Bible. And I'm like, well, I can't hold that anymore. I can't hold anything, certainly can't hold anything literally, like some of my more evangelical friends. But yeah, so that was part of it. And so I kind of backed away from, became more real loose and liberal with the interpretation of the Bible, probably more, I wouldn't have called myself this, probably because I didn't know what it was at the time when I was in this state, but my theology was much closer to like a universalist Unitarian at that point, which is, as Christian denominations go, is practically atheist to begin with. But so, yeah, I got there, and then it was you know, a little more thinking, a little more reading, researching, and you get to deism, some just general God, and then finally agnosticism, and then atheism. So, yeah, that was my journey. It was over years actually thinking and contemplating about this stuff.
All right. Yeah, I can definitely understand the wanting to prove your religion thing. That's where I started out, actually. Um, just realized I left Discord open and I just got blasted in the ear with a notification. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut that down real quick before I go deaf. Um, ignoring Mark Caesar. But yeah, I definitely get, you know, starting from the position of I want to prove what I already think is true. It's first of all, it's wrong. it you know, there's that bias that you want to maintain, you know, so I totally get it. I do.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's so much bias as it is um, finally examining what you hold to be true. You know, we could say that, you know, with you know, outside of religion, there's plenty of things you or I right now believe that we've never thought about, never examined before. So when it's finally brought to our attention, we go and we're like, some people just say, well, you know, they'll come up with some kind of rationalization for why they hold something. Other people, you know, like us, just say, well, why do I believe this is true? I mean, what reason do I have to hold on to this and keep this as true? And so I think it's more of that than just trying to fit things to my bias. Because if I was trying to fit things to my bias, some of the apologetics books that a lot of my evangelical friends think are great at strengthening their faith and stuff. So whether it's like the Walk with Christ, Case for Christ, stuff like that, or Mere Christianity, all these really bad apologetics books that I don't know how anybody takes them to be a good defense of their faith. It certainly wasn't for me. They were really bad. So
yeah. Believe it or not, when I was still doing the whole Catholic thing, I never really read any of those sources. I mostly, ironically, kept to you know, the Bible and the Catechism. You know, occasionally stuff some saints wrote down. Um, yeah, I never really went that deep, which is kind of interesting when it comes to apologetics. But
yeah,
I think I got more than enough of that bullshit from like Bible study that my church would have for uh, people in high school on Mondays, and this is interesting. The youth group leaders at my church actually started a group that went international called Dead Theologian Society, and basically you just spent like an hour learning about the life of different saints. It's actually really interesting, but um, it's all taught from the perspective of the shit they did was true, you know. So when we covered St. Patrick, who, if you all remember my video recently on St. Patrick, is my patron saint, we're expected to believe that he actually did raise 33 people from the dead. You know,
yeah,
so yeah, I mean, from a scholarly standpoint, it's pretty interesting because, you know, definitely the lore surrounding these saints is accurate, you know, but the representation of, you know, them actually raising people from the dead or curing diseases, or I'm sure regrowing limbs on a couple of occasions. that shit never actually happened because it can't. But it was interesting. Did you ever have anything like that at your church when you were still going?
You mean like say that again? I'm trying to follow along with.
I mean, the Bible study thing is kind of a given. Pretty much every church has that, but there's this Dead Theologian Society thing, and in that
we
you go
had
over the lives of the saints.
Yeah, as far as I know, we never had anything like that. Yeah, it was, there was the Bible study stuff like that, and then, in church on, a couple nights a week. So, but yeah, we didn't have anything like that. Would have been interesting.
It definitely would. I'm sure they still have a website. I'll later on I'll link it in the description or the comment section. It's definitely worth checking out. But beyond that, don't believe the miraculous claims of the saints. It's no. So I mean, normally this is the part where I ask, what kind of content or what kind of got you to start making content on your channel, but
yeah,
other than Twitch, you don't.
yeah, and part of that is my own perfectionism, if you will, for some of the videos that way. They'll be coming. It's just a matter of when I feel good about one, I'll put it out. I can't make any more promises on that than I've been doing for the last 6 months, 7 months, or whatever with people. It's just if I'm not happy with my work, it goes right in the dumpster. Which makes for a bad content creator on YouTube, but it is what it is. Until I get over that hurdle, it's going to be slow going, but it should pick up. I have my avatar animated pretty much to go. It's just, all right, what video do I want to go over, and is it, for me, I don't want to go into the low-hanging fruit, the godless cranium kind of stuff. I like GC's content. I'll listen, I'll watch too, but for me, it drives me crazy trying to make a response to some of the brain dead people he makes responses to, on that caliber. It's not something that's super fun for me to spend the time to edit and put a video together like that over, something that's so clearly bad. But I've been thinking of maybe taking those kinds of videos, if I'm doing more like a Geek Room Let's Riff kind of thing, once a week live show. So I can tackle them quick without putting all that extra time into editing a video together. But that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly hate doing response videos. I mean, there's only like 4 on my channel, out of 90 some videos now. So you can definitely do all original content, just basically make a video surrounding an apologetic and, just take a quick whack at it. And, you don't actually have to respond to someone using it. Just, here's the structure of this apologetic. Well, okay. Here's a cartoon showing why it's bullshit, kind of like Dark Matter 2525,
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand going that route too. Yeah. Oh, it's just one of those things, especially for full animation stuff, like Dark Matter does. It's really tough. So unless it's something really good to put out, once in a while, but for all the hours and stuff. So yeah, I some stuff to think about with how I want to handle the channel.
That's definitely something to consider, man. 'Cause I'm of the belief that we need more atheist voices out in the world.
Yeah.
Show that I will make this joke fucking constantly, but we don't eat babies. Yeah, that's not a thing that we do. We don't believe in Satan. At least I would hope most of us don't. But yeah, just to sort of normalize atheism, be like, we're not evil like you seem to think we are. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and I get a lot of people, especially when I get into some of these private hangouts with everybody. It's, oh, you should do a video explaining this topic of philosophy, this thing here, this stuff here, and it's like, whew, boy, that's a lot of sourcing and stuff to to put like a lesson plan together on that, kind of be a teacher that way. So I have got a couple of things on the back burner with that, especially around morality. Morality is kind of my topic and talking thing, because it's one of the things theists like to use as a cudgel against atheists. Like, they have some great gotcha, for us. It's, it's not, I mean, the Afro Dilemma clearly points out that what they think is a gotcha isn't a gotcha, and theirs is, guaranteed to be subjective regardless of anything else before we get into any of the atheist moralities. So that's one I get into, and that's one I talk about a lot, and my go-to around some of these different chats. I did, was it November, December? I did one on a live talk with Snarky and Maddie over on Snarky's channel about objective morality. So if anybody wants to check that out, that kind of gets my ideas across there, and looking at doing a couple of videos on that, just to explain it, because I think, especially among the general atheist community, we have really poor arguments for why morality isn't objective and why it can't be objective. So some of that needs to be countered on our side. And that's kind of been one of my big arguments and some of the things I go on and talk about with other people on different streams over. So that's something that'll be condensed down into video form at some point.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye out on. Now, the thing with the Afro Dilemma, it's definitely a good thought experiment. The only problem is it doesn't actually have to do with morality. It's piety. And it kind of a difference between the two there, I think.
Well, it's the same. It's the same question can be applied to morality. There's different, so you can apply these types of dilemmas in different ways. Whether or not subbing in piety or morality in for piety in the original dilemma works just fine, and asks the same question. Whether morality comes from God or is outside of God, and you get the shoddy Frank Turek, William Lane Craig apologetic that tries to split the two forks, and all it does is kick the can down the road. And if God did what the Bible says God's done, it makes the Holocaust perfectly moral. So that's their issue with that third, that kind of split in the road solution to it.
Yeah.
So I had a big one on big discussion with some theists on Twitter a few weeks back over it, and it didn't seem to go through their head that, well, if God's good, then by definition, anything God does is good. And so when God floods the world, or even if you want to take the local flood and kills a whole bunch of people, commits genocide. Well, genocide's okay then. That's good because God being good, God can't do bad. And so they don't understand that that's the inevitability of that resolution. And so what you find out if you actually read their books is that they come to the idea with some standard outside of God for what is good. They have some theory of good. If you've read Turk's actual books and works and stuff like that, instead of what he gives out in his presentations, which are really condensed. So when you read the books, you can catch the flaw right away. You can say, aha, here's your idea of what's good. This is outside of God. So you kicking the can down the road calling God good is you already have a standard outside that you're applying it to. Yeah. It's so contradictory, but theists seem to think that works, that solves the problem for them. It doesn't.
No, it's just moving the goalpost. Eventually you're gonna make it there. No, it was a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember who it is I was interviewing at the time, but it was another one of my interview shows, and you all probably will know exactly who the hell I'm talking about here. Evolution False, aka Darth Dawkins,
Ooh.
decided to hop in, and the first thing this guy says is yet another atheist show that has claims to morality but no basis for it. God, I was torn between responding and not, because this was the person I was interviewing's time, and I didn't want to take away from them, so I just sort of let the chat have at them.
Oh, he was in the chat. He didn't wait when you said hot down. It sounded like.
Oh no. I don't publish the Hangout link for obvious reasons, but no, he jumped into the video and got into the live chat and started his bullshit. Part of me honestly kind of thinks he might be a little bit of a Poe, but I don't know.
He's like a lot of pre-suppers. He likes to, use philosophy as a cudgel against atheists and stuff. And, I hate to say it, some of us aren't well prepared for what pre-suppers use or how to respond to them. And it's good that some people have been putting out, this information, how to handle the script and what things you have to have in line before you take, before you enter like a discussion with someone like Darth Dawkins or Psi 10 on a larger level. And, that as much as some atheists despise philosophy, it's a good thing to get ahead of and get onto to understand your epistemology, whether you're a foundationalist, a coherentist, correspondence theorist, all that stuff, how you can say things, and so that you can understand what's being presented to you by pre-suppers, and I don't want to say debunk, but defeat what they're trying to do. And so for any atheists that are like, oh, philosophy's pointless, bad stuff. No, get this stuff down. This will help you deal with things like that and not look like an ass. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not much for debate personally. I've always kind of found it to be tedious and unproductive. At least if it's a one-on-one debate, if there's no audience, yeah, it's tedious and pointless. because neither of you are going to move from your position. At least it's very unlikely. Now, if there's an audience for the debate, I get it. Because suddenly you're not trying to convince the person across from you, you're trying to convince everyone else in the room watching.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all debates are, and it's I like Destiny's rule, the 40-40-20. So going into any debate, 40% are going to agree with you no matter what. 40% are going to agree with your opposition no matter what. And the purpose of the debate is trying to convince the 20% in the middle there that haven't decided yet. So,
Yeah.
so that's what I look at it when I hop on. So I've done 2 debates now, over with James on Modern Day Debate. Duke and I did one against Master Apologist and Andrew Stratelites back in early November, which could have been more of a shit show than it was if I was willing to ignore being on James's platform. Had it been on, say, my channel, I would have raked Master Apologist over the coals. But yeah, besides all the other shit there he's done since, I won't ever debate him going forward anyways, just after my experience with him in that debate. It's like, all right, you're not here to debate the point, you're here to throw out a bunch of names and a bunch of random quotes that you string together to try to make your point. So you're not going to address anything that's said in the debate. You're just gonna, here's your script, you're gonna read it out and leave it at that. So that was definitely a waste of time with him. The other one, I think I was on a panel with Christopher from Bible History Skeptics and some third atheist I didn't know, with Jonathan Sheffield, who did the coin cartoon that Mac responded to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've seen that cartoon or whatever, Mac's response to it, but yeah. So we were going over that and trying to argue how some random person, way back in time, giving some provenance to an item that's, they don't, they're not the direct like creators of it or got it from someone directly. They it's just, here's church tradition on what this is that solves everything, that makes whatever said is true, and it doesn't. So yeah, that was my second one. And then I had the third one with the SJ back in January, and something completely unrelated. But
yeah, gotta love anything to do with SJ, right?
Yeah, well, she's a lot crazier on Twitter with what she's willing to throw out there. And so when I went in that debate with her, I left my opening, and then she agreed with me. Like right 5 minutes into the thing, the debate was over. It's like, all right, where's your crazy stuff that you were pushing? You're just gonna agree with me and say that's it. So that wasn't as exciting as I was hoping it to be.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have expected her to just roll.
Yeah, I wanted that. I wanted the frustrated atheist experience when they're discussing atheism and communism. If you haven't seen, that's a perfect dumpster fire to go watch.
Jesus. See, I mean, I get that a lot of people out there conflate communism with atheism because I think it was Stalin and Mao. They both wanted atheist states. They didn't want religion.
Well, I mean, that goes back to Marx in general, right? The manifesto itself. It's not super against religion, but it points out how so in the manifesto, Marx famously calls religion the opiate of the masses, right? But in other portions, he doesn't. So while he condemns this as being something that gets in the way of the proletariat from uprising against the bourgeois class, he also doesn't completely dismiss it as that's the proletariat's way of trying to deal and make sense of the oppression they're faced with. So he does, kind of brings them hope and the like. So while it's like, hey, get rid of it, once you get rid of religion, atheism is there, and then we can get to communism, right? So we don't have this thing holding us back, but it's not super anti-religious as if, as you get to Stalin and Mao, Lenin, all those guys, which are vehemently. Well, I take that back. I wouldn't say Mao so much because Mao is a tough one to peg because Eastern religions aren't the way us Westerners think of religion.
No, they're usually pretty atheistic, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, sometimes without days, some are like pantheistic. If you take like something like Taoism, the Tao being a very pantheistic concept. But yeah, so it's not quite the same that, like Mao, you have writings talking about heaven in China. One of the big things is, the mandate of heaven. So that you'll find if you read through the emperors of China and stuff, the histories that they give of this. So whenever, say, an emperor fails, that you say, oh, they've lost the mandate of heaven. They have all this stuff. So this stuff here would be religious, and would not be atheistic. There was stuff there, but without like a deity to worship or anything else like that, it's much easier to push to the side with things like that. But yeah, so I Mao's tough for me for being an atheist on the claims for that when you're writing about, especially writing poetry about heaven and all this other stuff, and that's just the translation, obviously, but their conception of what it is in their religions and stuff. So it's a little hard to say that, but Lenin, Stalin, and stuff like that, yeah, we're definitely.
Yeah, they were definitely more anti-religion, and I think that has more to do with getting rid of competition for power structure.
Oh yeah, I mean, even someone like Hitler, who was a theist, eventually said, "Fuck it, we got to get rid of the rid of the religion by the end." They're in our way. They're something that is an obstacle to us. So, it's kind of what happens when you're looking for, when it's power struggles and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you want a totalitarian regime, which each of those examples did, you have to get rid of competing power structures, and there's not a lot that's, in the way of power structure, there's not a lot that's older than religion. So it definitely has more to do with getting rid of power structures so you can have this totalitarian utopia, but it's honestly it's a pretty stupid conflation once you actually start to dig in. And you just look at the North Korean regime. You've replaced whatever gods they worshipped previously with Kim Il Sung, or Kim Il. I don't know. Kim Jong Il's dad. I don't know, and Kim Jong Un. They're all worshipped as deities. So
yeah,
it's interesting, but yeah, definitely. Now, hopefully you don't turn into like Evans and or Faithless Southerner, and every other week is hopefully the new video will be out this weekend, and it's 6 months later, nothing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So yeah, that's me too. And and part of that is especially since Apex came out, is we've been playing ridiculous amount of hours on that, me and him. And so that's why I started streaming Twitch into my second YouTube streaming channel. Was like, well, if we're doing all this stuff, it takes away from doing any videos for the channel for the time being. I might as well make some content out of it, so it's not going completely to waste. And so I like to make that joke around Twitter whenever it comes up. One of us is finally putting out content. It may not be what we promised, but it's coming out.
oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, a good chunk of what I have is, either a deconversion story or talk about your channel, and we've pretty decently exhausted that.
Well, I remember you used to do. You had questions about how we would have thought as a believer still on certain things. And so we prove. So I don't know if that's something that's been phased out over time, but on the interviews.
I mean, my very earliest interviews, I kind of flew by the seat of my pants, but afterwards I started writing them down, and I may have just forgotten about it. So it's not like it was phased out. It's just not something I remembered to write down. But since you bring it up, are there any holdovers of thought from religion?
The not so much anymore. It's been 6-7 years about now that I've been an atheist, and then just over that time it's kind of grown firmer in the beliefs and stuff. But yeah, there every now and then you get that especially with hell and stuff, you get that niggle at the back of your mind that kind of grips you. It's not completely gone. But yeah, for the most part, it's part of that might have just been an early separation where eventually church got phased out for us, or that's probably why it didn't hold quite as hard long with me. But it's still something there. It's still something that will peek its head out every now and then. But yeah, other stuff holdovers from religion. It's like I've dropped some. I wasn't, so when I was religious, I wasn't, like some people talk about how they were bigots and all this other stuff. That wasn't me. Part of that, I guess, was our church at least didn't preach a whole lot of that hellfire and damnation. It was a lot of the love stuff that we got when we were there. So that didn't stick didn't stick to me, and so that didn't change. But there was for the longest time I held while religious that my way to explain away the evil in the world was God testing us, right? Giving us these things, giving us these obstacles to overcome and to make us stronger and make us ready for the afterlife and stuff like there, to reap the rewards by dealing with these obstacles and stuff. Now that I'm out, I'm looking at, that kind of thinking and stuff. There's still doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because there are people that born with the silver spoon in their mouth and it never goes away. So they're never really faced with any meaningful obstacles for that kind of stuff. So it's like, no, that's just not it. I mean, obviously, everybody's going to face these obstacles in life, and how you handle them determines I don't know, character kind of thing. But yeah, so that's the one thing that leaving was definitely dropped. But yeah, there's not a whole lot that's stuck around. thankfully, you know, I feel for some of the other ones that you've had on that have been, you know, that super evangelical and super, you know, fundamentalist stuff that just crazy. It's like, I'm glad that wasn't me. Who knows how it would have turned out if that was the stuff we were into.
Well, I mean, you're right now talking to a guy who used to be a bigot, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, we can turn out all right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't know. Maybe it was just because, you know, my parents were a little different. It's like, well, you're our kid. We love you, you know, unconditionally, and you know, really mean unconditionally. I always make the joke that I could have been, you know, gay or anything like that, and parents would have accepted me just fine, still being religious because, you know, I'm their kid and they want me to be happy. But so maybe that's colored my perspective on why the bigotry stuff never really stuck. You know, if it was coming from the religion to begin with and other religious peers, because I don't know, there's some that are that I know that have it and still hold on to it, but yeah, you know, that are still in the religion, still have it. It's like, where'd you get that from? That doesn't seem to be where it comes from here, but you know, sometimes you never really know. Like a couple people I found out after college became super hardcore fundamentalist evangelical. So it's like, man, you would have never, you know, in high school, we never would have imagined that's the route you would have gone down. Obviously, you still would have been religious, still gone to church, done all that stuff, not become an atheist. But it's like, man, it does not fit with who you are as a person and personality and stuff and how I know you. And, you know, I guess that was something you held a lot deeper than you were willing to show.
All right. Well, yeah, that actually is pretty much all I've got for you. I do like to have people plug their channels at the beginning and the end. So, would you mind running through that again, real quick?
Say that again. Run through the.
The stuff you do on your channel. So, for you,
All right.
what
Yeah.
you do on Twitch.
Yeah, so I stream to Twitch and my second YouTube channel, which is a streams only channel. Right now, we playing a lot of Apex Legends with Evans, Faithless Southerner, and sometimes Tatted Atheist will join us if you can ever find the time to play. And then I hope to eventually get, you know, guests that we can talk over this stuff and have discussions instead of just me and Evans swearing at the screen when we die. And then for my regular channel, stuff will be coming. I'm not going to put any deadline or dates and stuff on it. It's just a matter of what sparks my interest and really gets into it, you know, to recording and editing a full video. So yeah, so those are what I have right now. But yeah, for mostly it's the games and streaming on Twitch and my second channel.
All right. And everybody, if you go down into the description box below, you will find all of those channels. You know, his Twitter, his primary YouTube that still has nothing on it.
Yeah.
The YouTube streaming channel, which should have stuff on it, right? You have it set to save?
Yeah, it's all saved.
Okay. And you'll also find his Twitch.
Yep.
Yep. Everything is on there. So go give him a follow on those. And who knows, maybe if you get enough subs on your primary channel, you'll, you know, feel compelled to start doing something with it.
Yeah, I'll have to go full Shannon Q and get 1,000 before the first video.
Oh. All right. That's gonna do it for this one. Thanks for coming on, Red.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So if you all enjoyed the video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and head over to Red's channels and do the same. Let's see if we can get this guy to start using his channel. But yeah, that'll take care of it for this one. Take it easy, everybody, and I will see you all in the next one.